Thank you so much for being here, Federico. Your work is often about the American founding fathers, about the genocide of Native Americans, and about false heroic stories. Why is it important for you as an artist to work politically, and how did you come to these themes?
Well, I think the most important thing is that, when I moved to the United States, I thought that I can never feel my country unless I will really do a deep dive into American history, because I thought that the only way to understand the society in which I choose to become an artist and to spend my life, because I felt immediately that was the right place to be. I start step by step to dive into, of course, museum, but but step by step I dive into author, and in particular there were few books about American history, but the first one was a book that really changed my perspective of things. Was called A History of People in the United States by Howard Zinn, and that was very remarkable because it was a book that was written thinking about the perspective of the people that they were not the privileged people, and so it gives you immediately a different perspective that oh wow, the history of America is no exceptional if you think about the people that they were not the privileged one, and that was a big thing. Then I remember a diplomat told me, Federico, you should read Eduardo Galeano, Open Veins of Latin America. This was another dramatic book in which Galeano was showing the history of exploitation of the North America versus, the Latin America. That was a huge book. And then came a book that was kind of like a very simple read, because I have two kids, and at the time, they were young, but this was a book about education, and the author was James Lowen, and the title was The Lies That My Teacher Told Me. That was basically a textbook, analyzing the textbook of American history, and basically, it started to show that a lot of this story, they were so, this story of the great founding father, the arrival in the native land, they were so narrated, such in a, fictional way that basically there was just a little through left, So all of this kind of reading, but first of all, I will say that the importance of understanding where I was about to spend the next 30 years of my life, the rest of my life, because I knew that America was the place, So, and I started to do this work that was criticizing American exceptionalism and this idea, this ethnocentric view that, way before this theme became very popular. I'm talking about 10, 12 years ago. And sometime back then, some of this work was problematic,
And the title of the exhibition is The Drunken Boat.
Yeah.
What does that mean
Well,
to
The Drunken Boat is a famous poem by Arthur Rimbaud, and is a poem that fascinated me many, many years ago. And I like this idea of this raft that is with no character, is floating on this tumultuous water, and I felt there could be a good metaphor of this idea that American history has been so manipulated and it's been almost unrecognizable, and I felt that now, after all of this century of propaganda and lie, America is in a tumultuous boat going into a river, and the current is bringing the boat and this character that you can see in the painting, and we don't know what's going to happen, because of course I saw this this you know, correction that are happening now in American history, I saw them coming. Like, you know, I saw them coming because some of these textbooks that I end up reading, this high school textbook, they were so unsustainable for a point of view of an African American, of a Caribbean American, that I know the bomb will about to explode, you know, and that's, I felt that the title was proper for you know, put together a different body of work with one theme, like, you know, which was, hey, let's have a look deeply into this theme, and you know, that's why I felt, you know.
And the boat and the theme arrive is we see often in your work. Maybe you can tell us something about the first painting, because this is linked directly to...
Yeah, the first painting, you have a group of like, you know, extravagantly dressed founding father and various leaders from American history, but also we have colonizer, like from Europe, like, you know, so they're all extravagantly dressed with sunglasses, and apparently they are intoxicated. They're sort of like lost at sea, but are still tremendously happy. And so in a way, I think I was trying to make like a caricature, but also making strong connection with some painting that, you know, they are at the Louvre, The Raft of Medusa by Jerry Cole. Or we have a painting, The Crossing of the Delaware from Emmanuel Loz. Is a big important painting, but that one, of course, they're serious painting, like, you know, they are, you know, like sort of like very academic, very like, you know, and this, I thought, like, you know, I think would be a nice way to start, like, you know, with straightening things out, that this, I'm not an historian, this is like an exhibit that I'll be very happy if at the end of the viewer will say, you know what, you know, this give me something that maybe I want to challenge some of this narrative, these fairy tales that are being told. So I would be very happy that the fact of seeing all of these characters, that they are treated in a very comical way, but which means that, you know, bring this comical element in a way is a very accurate way to basically to try to destroy the myth of this serious, like, you know, founding father, like, you know. So in a way, the comical bring this element of disruptive element, you know, that I wanted to say, hey guys, but these are just legends, you know. Reality, real history, you know, it was very different, like, you know, so.
And here we can see a boat and an arrival too. And I think this video you make before this painting.
Yes, this video
inspired you?
Yeah, the video also, you know, has an audio, a beautiful soundtrack by which turn off, of course. Actually, yes, you're right. Like, you know, I first developed 3 video painting with this theme, you know, this theme of like having this character that are sort of lost at sea. There is no horizon, and of course, this in particular, you have this sort of like hellish, red, Dantesque element, but at the same time, you know, Donald Trump dressed as a military leader, he's smoking a cigar, he's completely like, you know, completely fine with himself. So there is this contrast between the dramatic, you know, like environment, but, you know, they just don't care. They're just there, like, you know, they're having a terrific time, like, you know. Yeah. And I also like the very slow pace, which is very rare in my work, you know. And I have to say, later I want to put the soundtrack. The soundtrack is so nice, you know. So
I was wondering if they know that they don't will arrive. the people on the boat, do they know that they
never arrive.
Don't arrive?
They never arrive. No, they just lost in time, like, you know. So that's was the point, I think, like, you know, very unusual in you know. I like to live also, like, you know, a narrative that is ambiguous. You know, is ambiguous because if you give enough element to the viewer, they can complete the narrative themselves. Like, you know, I like that. You know, instead of just being so direct and so straightforward to say this is the beginning, this is the end. Like, you know, they're metaphor in a way. You know.
I'm going to read a quote from you. I realized that these new digital media held all sorts of promise, but they were cold and inhuman. What they called out for was the warmth of a human hand. I really loved it. What did you mean by that? And can you explain how you produce the animated painting videos?
Well, you know, I didn't understand correctly. Can you read it again to me? Sorry, maybe I was a little distracted. I
You can.
No.
It's from the book.
No, possibly.
I realized that this new digital media held all sorts of promise, but they were cold and inhuman.
Okay.
And I think, you add something that is not cold and inhuman. You add a warmth of a human hand.
Yeah, well, so what do you see? And again, like, you know, I suggest to look at the book. Like, you know, you have two elements that are blended together. Like, you know, you have like a structure that is completely digital, and in a way, the drawing also show you what happened behind the scene of this character. And then we have these hand-painted drawings that are scanned and mounted into everything you see. So basically you have these two worlds that are colliding, like, you know, or they are living in harmony. So you have a completely organic world, which is the world of paintings, and also is the world of history of art and tradition and love for, you know, the ancient culture. But then simultaneously you have this completely innovative digital tool that, for example, Donald Trump is smoking a cigar that was recorded at the motion capture lab, and there was an actor that was like, you know. So my idea was, you know, to in a way deliver a story. I'm a storyteller. So, but I wanted to deliver a story not like 50 years ago, like, you know, the traditional, let's say, Disney, or, you know, animation. So, and by step, like investigating, like, you know, simultaneously the history of art, the history of painting, and of course, all of these digital tools that continuously they're coming, and nobody ever use it, you know, because these are tools that belong to this age, just the artists of my generation, like, you know. So, and I wanted to be like in the forefront of artistical research, but simultaneously my love for tradition made me do everything like by hand. You know, the animation. I'm thinking about the silent film. You know, when the actor, they used to, you know, overact because they don't have the voice to speak over. So, you know, there is these two worlds that they're not meant to be together, but I think they feel pretty good. You know, they're very organic. They feel that they were born to be together when you see a finished piece like this.
Yeah. And how much time it took to make a video like this?
This is difficult to explain because usually, you know, one character, I will say it takes few weeks to design digitally, then another few weeks to paint, but then when you have the character, you can use in multiple film. So, but then when you create a scene, this scene is very simple. You know, there's just like ocean, a boat, animation. But certain scene, you have 100 characters. So I will say that, you know, a complex piece goes from always like a month to 2 months. The work that we did for B3 took a year, 10 people and a city behind that was helping to develop the process. So it's time consuming, but you also have advantage. Once you complete a character, you can reuse it for different stage. You know, that's how I call it. This is an environment, but it's also a theatrical stage. You know, if you think about it, you know, without realizing, I started with drawings many years ago, and then I want to tell story. I used the first digital technology and gaming technology 20 years ago, when really there was not many people playing around. But then step by step, I found myself to be a director, like, you know, because, you know, I think, wow, now I have to build this set. You know, I need the water, so we need to animate the water. We need the character. So in a way, I'm between a director and a puppet master, you know, so.
And you're the director of a camera too.
Yes,
no?
yes.
Yeah.
So basically, it worked the same. You know, I never made a film, but, you know, I believe it worked very similar to a film. So for a month, you work to building the stage, you work to train the actors, you know. In our case, we have to recording, or sometimes you do animation. You have to, before going to a motion capture recording session, you have to rehearse, you have to do a test. And then when we have everything ready, like in a Hollywood movie of, you know, I don't know how Hollywood movies are made today, but on the 1970s, they would work for months to build the stage, and then you bring a camera inside the game, and like a filmmaker, you go and record, you do many recording, you record an hour of footage for 10 minutes of what you see, you know. So in a way, it's very.
Is there a step in the producing process you prefer? Is it the beginning, or is it the end with the camera, or what's the best?
Yeah,
step?
That's an interesting question. Like, you know, like definitely is very exciting when you do the storyboard. You know, I don't do storyboard. There was no storyboard for this, you know, but it's very exciting when you do a bit of research, you know, for the big project, like, you know, and I enjoy it a lot to get you know, material from silent film, from books, from painting, and then try to, you know, present it to my collaborators, like, you know, and that is the very fun part. Then when everything, let's say, we go for it, then it's like, you know, for a big project, like month of like painting, and you know, always dialogue with my, you know, computer assistant, that everything goes in there. I control everything from the expression to the flickering of the image to the sound, like, you know. Probably one of the most exciting thing is when we do the sound with a composer in Korea, because when I work in the sound, I know it's over, then it's finished. Like, you know, and that is a relief. That's a relief. But usually the first few days of the sounds, I'm always in terrible mood. Oh, this is garbage. It's never going to work. You know, and I'm not good to give probably, like, you know, great advice in the sound. But somehow every piece that is here, if it's here because I thought they reflect who I am, and I would never exhibit a piece that I'm not completely happy. So maybe some piece probably can be stronger for some, but I felt very happy with, because otherwise I would never show something that I don't feel comfortable with.
And you work with a team together in your studio? And how can I imagine? You are painting the skins, you give them to them, they scan it. How is it to work together?
Well, it depends. Like, you know, it's just, it depends. Because, for example, when I work on drawing like this, you know, which I did it for the exhibit, it's pretty much me, you know. So it's pretty much me, like, you know. But when we are, of course, you know, programming, like, you know, computer software, I refuse to do it. I was never interested into programming, but I do overlook at everything. Like, you know, so to me, I'm the guy that, you know, a good day is that I can come home with hand dirty of pastels, or when this day and that happen, I cannot touch something, is a day wasted for me. But, you know, of course, you know, it's not wasted. You know, it just, someday you just work on controlling the old things that they, you know, so it's complex, you know, it's complex, you know, and you have to be, you know, work with people all the time, like, you know, so, you know.
And how did the American art scene react to your work, and what changed from 10 years to today?
Yes, yeah, this is, well, that's a long question, like, you know, let's put it this way, like, you know, my relation with America, or probably with every country, is always conflictual in a way, like, you know, so I'm an expatriate, you know, so when I'm in America, people say, oh, but Federico is Italian. When I'm in Italy, say, but Federico is American. So anyway, so New York is still the best place for me, because simply for one thing, I have access to great exhibition. That's what an artist needs. I'm not there because simply there is the biggest collector. To me, I needed to see a big range of exhibition constantly. Like, you know, that's what I think an artist also mature, like when he's young. And I feel I'm completely like, I have my microcosm, you know, so since I was in America, they changed 10 different trends in 10 different years. I never care. Every year I'm able to do a nice step into my career. Like, you know, I don't care if the trend is abstract, the trend is figurative painting. You know, I have a very straightforward direction. It's kind of like an isolated path, but it's an isolated path that more and more and more people, they see value on my isolated path. So, and also I have another thing that, you know, I was a self-educated artist, and when I came to New York, I didn't have many people around me, like, you know, into the artwork. So I just basically create what I felt was right for me without a mentor in particular. So I was able to combine all of this media without having a professor tell me, hey, no, this you cannot do it. You know, this you cannot do it. So in a way, like, you know, it was harder at the beginning, but it proved very rewarding, because I simply went my way, you know, so.
Yeah, that's my next question. So
Okay.
your biographic story is very special. So because you didn't learn art at an art school.
No.
How we can learn art?
Well, I mean,
do?
the first things I will say, since I go to speak to many schools, the question is, oh, which school I should go? Which school I should do a master? I said, listen, at the end, what really makes a difference is you, not the school, you know, so. You know, first of all, I think you want to have a tremendous passion for art. You know, there is so many better jobs to be an artist. You know, you want to be an artist because that's your call. Like, you know, because you're going to go through a tumultuous, like, you know, you're like in the Drunken Boat. Like, you know, you never know where you're going to land. Like, you know, so. But in my case, like, you know. I was probably so naive and so convinced that was my call. I wanted to reinvent a life, and I moved to the United States, and I found, like, you know, the perfect combination of, like, you know, chaos, craziness, culture, money, madness, political scandal, and this chemistry, like, you know, worked for me very well. And I will say that the first 5 years I was very isolated, you know, but in a good way, you know. And then step by step I was able to start to work with some no-profit space in Brooklyn, and then then came a gallery, then step by step, this gallery in Brooklyn took me to Manhattan. Simultaneously, people of, galleries from Europe, they will come and get me and bring me to Europe. So it was like, step by step, like, was a, was a lot of observing great artists that they have very long career. Like, I was a very good observer, I think, like, and I think I have, I trust my instinct. I was doing difficult choices sometimes, but I always have this, because I didn't have mentors, So when you have mentors, you have to trust, yourself.
And by which media you started? Was it drawing?
Drawings.
And
drawings.
What
yes.
did you draw?
Was drawings, and immediately I thought that drawings is great. I like it, but there was a limitation that, again, I wanted to be a storyteller. I wanted to tell something that somehow, some kind of like touch part of the society and issue in society that I was not happy about it. And I wanted to tell a story. I wanted to fix this problem, like, with some absurd story. And step by step, I realized that there was nothing better than animated drawings. But of course, I didn't want to do it traditionally, like, so. And
yeah, we spoke about the videos, and we have VR glasses downstairs. Yeah. But you also paint, like with draws with pastel. Yeah. What are the advantages of the classic techniques? What can a painting, what a video can't?
Well, that's the thing. Like, that's the thing. Like, I feel like moving image give me a tremendous pleasure. But it's not enough. Like, I always feel that, again, here we see a juxtaposition of, like, pastels, gouache, and ink. But what you see is an interpretation of the structure of this character that, the viewer doesn't see when you work on this software. So, and I've been exposed to this digital world for so many years. I said, you know what? Now it's time to unveil of what's happening behind the scene, and I want to unveiling, thinking of the etching of Rembrandt, the etching of Giorgio Morandi, the drawing of Georges Seurat. So, and I was not just interested on, just do a 3D print to show what's happening behind the scene. But I wanted to create a poetic image and somehow manipulate this line and make it mine, because a lot of these lines are completely, they don't make any sense in terms of like, like a digital skeleton. So, and also I said, wow, this is the opportunity to discover a completely new world. So I start with small drawing, and step by step at the studio, I have drawings that are like 15 feet now. So these, to me, are small work, And now I try to create a new stage, a theatrical, like stage to create these drawings, like,
And today it's accepted to critique the American history. But I think when you started with these works, it was more difficult.
Well, like I was always interested into like like socially commentary work, So of course, America, there is plenty that you can, plenty to love, but also plenty to criticize. Like, my team, they were, I remember I did a major work about the Wall Street, greed and, kept me for 2 years, So, no, I'm always interested into move as society move, So, I don't just read the art newspaper. I read financial news. I read anything that comes to me. I like it. I like to you know, my inspiration is never been just the artwork, is everything, like, you know.
And do you see your work most likely in galleries and art museums, or also in historical museums or in school lessons?
What's the last? No, the last word?
School lessons.
Ah, okay. Well, you know, with the B3, like the installation we did at the Schauspiel Theater was very interesting. It was a major projection. It was extremely difficult because we have a building was very wide and very narrow, like a film strip, you know. So I thought that was an incredible experience because I thought it was an animated murals, you know. For that kind of work, I went to, you know, actually pick like a frescoes from a frieze of a frescoes in Ferrara at Palazzo della Schifanoia, which is a very important frescoes for art historian, but nobody know about this. And what I like about doing public installation is that you don't have just a, let's say, intellectual art audience, but you have the people of every day, which I think is pretty cool, you know, because you know, 500 years ago, 600 years ago, when a peasant will go to a church, will have the same feeling of enchantment than an aristocrat. So have the opportunity to work with public space, and in particular street. I remember I was observing the people getting off of the tram, and they will look at this gigantic, they thought it was a Christmas decoration, but I like it. I like it that people think was a Christmas decoration, you know, because I was observing their reaction, like, you know. And then, of course, after Frankfurt, we were able to, I was able to do many other projects, like a massive project, including in Times Square. At one point, I had, I think, 45 screens for 1 month, the installation in Times Square, so it was very nice. There were different challenges. But the encounter with the everyday people, I love it. I love it. You know. So.
Okay. I believe there was an early video of you with you made with a gorilla attacking the Guardini Gallery.
Yes.
Well, what was it about?
Well, that was a piece from 2005. Like, it was called King Kong and the End of the War. So the starting point was the 1933 film of King Kong. Like, you know. So, and in fact, the first few scenes, I recreate the black and white introduction. Giving an illusion that they were watching the real King Kong, and then things they become very, very different. So it was a very personal piece that I did, and basically was the alter ego of the artist, myself, going around New York in 2005, and basically damaging what I didn't like about United States, which was the hierarchy of the artwork, Wall Street, extreme capitalism, which actually is what is, you know. So they were like, you know, it was a young artist that was trying to explain, you know, his opinion in society, and it was very, very well received. Still today, I did actually a lecture at Yale University like a few days before I came here, and people still think, man, this is one of your best pieces. And they keep telling me, oh, you should do it again. I said, well, you know, this is a work that, you know, my state of mind 20 years ago is very different. I was naive, I was maybe dreaming, like, you know, but this kind of work you can't do anymore. You have to move forward, like, you know, so.
Which age you have?
I made it in 2005, but there were two things that were funny. One, that I took the Guggenheim Museum and I destroyed Guardini Gallery, and then I was awarded with the Guggenheim Fellowship for video art. And then I remember one of the craziest things happened in Times Square, and I went to basically make a big mess in Times Square, and I was allowed to do a major installation in Times Square. So that was weird.
But you didn't show the same video with it.
Maybe they don't know. Maybe they don't know. Otherwise, they would let me do it.
In what direction can you imagine working further? Will it be more VR or gaming, or can it be film or with dialogues? So,
well, you know, I have a lot of projects. Like one of the biggest projects I have now is taking all of the characters that are in the virtual experience, and I take him again out of the virtual world, and they're becoming ceramic sculpture, which I'm doing in the next 5 years in Caltagirone, Sicily, with a master ceramicist. And this is another example of this continuous interplay between the necessity of moving forward with new technology, but the more I go forward with the technology, the more I get pulled back, that I have to go, you know, to do like, you know, ceramic sculpture that they've been around, you know, for ages, like, you know. So now this is a good moment. I have a lot of idea. I'm working with, I'm basically creating a new series of character inspired by contemporary tycoon, from social media to, you know, venture capitalists. So I'm very focused not anymore in the history, but I'm more interested to express opinion about the new dynamic of power in the contemporary world, you know, and trying to envision, you know, with all of this, you know, like the new development, I try to envision what can happen, like, you know, just for me to try to predict, like, you know, not that I wanted to predict anything in particular, but, you know, by understanding contemporary society, I like to create some surreal interpretation of where we can land in 15 years, in 20 years, you know.
Where we can land?
Well, no, I think it's very clearly where we're going to land. We're going to land like in a place that is something in between these two worlds, like, you know, like a major presence of the virtual world in our life, and still the struggle to keep our feet into the physical world, like, you know. So, you know, that's, you have in a way, like, you know, all of these multi-billion-dollar companies that try to push us out of where we've been for thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, and everything looks so attractive for us, including myself. But then, like, you know, I think it's kind of cool to keep a foot into this earth too.
And which character you use the most, or do you have a prefer character to play with?
Well, the preferred character, they're the one, you know, that I'm working now, you know, because, you know, like, you know, the most exciting is always the tomorrow, like, you know. So this, I was very happy to do the show, but, you know, if I want to wake up early in the morning to be excited, I have to be excited for what is next, not for what is past, you know. So at the moment, I'm playing around a lot with characters that are inspired by Fritz Lang, the German filmmaker, but combine them with, you know, characters like Elon Musk, Kim Kardashian, all of these kind of like new leaders that are dominating, like, you know, the contemporary scene, like, you know. So that are the ones that they kick me out of bed in the morning at the moment.
Okay, kicking out of bed. What can you take us to a usual studio day? How you work?
Maybe I don't want to. No. Well, the studio day, like, you know, is not very normal. You know, my studio day is, I wake up very early in the morning, like, you know, usually 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30, like, you know. I try to be at the studio before 6 o'clock, you know. So I have 4 hours for me before my assistant comes, you know. So, and, you know, yeah, I have 2 studios, one in Brooklyn, one that I keep it just for me, for my intimate, kind of intimacy, because, when you work with a lot of people, it's also interesting to have some intimacy. And then I have a studio across mine that is bigger, and so no, we have multiple projects going on. So I have people there. I have 2 people there working with animation and digital. They work remotely, which is great. After the pandemic, but the studio is where we do all of the physical work, all of the paintings, all of the drawings. Is very chaotic in certain part of the year, and it's a place where people come and see me, so, but it's great, it's my microcosm, so it's where the only place on earth that I feel myself, and I feel happy, so, not always, but, so.
So now we live in times where IE is a huge team in art, and you already worked with VR. My question is, do you believe that painting will survive?
Should I believe painting
will survive, or will it be replaced?
But of course will survive. I mean, yes, absolutely. So I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some great AI painter, but again, and I saw it even 10, 12 years ago, that when it was obvious that even our students, they will always in a way paint, but the source of inspiration was not anymore just the physical world, but were the image they were consuming through gaming, through tablets, and somehow they came new filter to our brain that, when you look at the building and you want to paint a building, you still use the brush. And some, of course, they can just do a digital painting, but your mind filter between what you see in a game, in a digital animation, and what you see in the real world. So there is a blend. I do believe that the more art is going to be created, it's not going to be just strictly digital or strictly painted. I see in a lot of young artists, even in their assignment for school, that the tendency is not to go either or, is to blend, That's I see a lot, at least in the United States, So I don't know what's the other day I had a student, they asked me, hey Federico, I'd like to have an advice about a war poster, So he said, oh, should I go collage? Should I go digital? Should I go? So after all this struggle, she told me that I think 7 to 80% of the students in her class, they started with the iPad, some are started on canvas, and then they blend the two, But I don't think nothing will die. The canvas will always be there. But what we'll see in the canvas was not just what you see, while you're walking on the street. There will come a million new subjects to explore, So, and that's exciting, For an artist, this is a phenomenal, moment of possibility, I think, I think. Okay, thank you, thanks. Thank you, Larissa, thank you. We did it. Thank you.